What's up, comic book fans? Pete here from Comic Books Transformed, where me and my good friend Brian over there, who's heard this intro so many fucking times, talking about comic books, and they've been adapted into streaming shows and movies. There we go. I got through that.
Yeah. A little rough around the edges, but that's okay.
That's kind of the way our show is, yeah. But anyway, our old show used to be called Rod Pod Ramblings, right? Or
Ramblings from the Rod Pod, yeah, because we were trying to think of something related to Transformers. We wanted to talk about things like that. I think we started, the first thing we covered was the War for Cybertron on Netflix.
Yeah.
Which was kind of bad. And then we started to pivot into something there was a little more on brand for both of us, which was comic books and, things that have been adapted from comic books.
Right.
We kind of do any sci-fi sort of comic booky thing at all. We blur the lines a little bit with some of it Star Wars, or we just did Terminator Zero.
Yeah.
But I think this Transformers and Transformers 1 qualifies because it is originally a comic book.
Yes. You talking about the comic from Marvel, like in the 80s?
Yeah, the Marvel. That was the first thing. Was the comic book. So it's more famously known as the cartoon from the 80s, but originally it started as a comic book.
Boom. He's dropping some history on y'all. Brian is the Transformers expert on this channel. I'm pretty knowledgeable of Transformers myself. I love Transformers, but Brian, I think that if you were to cut him open, you might see a transformation cog inside of him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just look at the wall behind him,
it's a little, maybe it's a little unhealthy. I don't know.
No, it's fine though. I fucking love it. So we're talking about Transformers 1. It just dropped in theaters this week or last week, I guess. We're talking about it. We're covering the movie. Brian, I have one little bombshell to drop on you though. I didn't finish the movie.
What? What happened?
Okay. I went to go see it, and I thought I was going to have enough time. I had to be home at a certain time to help out my family with something. And I guess because of the trailers and shit, it just was too long.
Damn trailers.
I know. And so I missed, we could go into spoilers kind of quickly, but basically when the final battle was about to begin is when I left.
Oh my God. Holy shit. All right,
yeah.
Tell you all about it when we get to that point.
Let's do it. Okay, so before we jump into spoilers then, though, let's talk about the behind-the-scenes stuff, which I like to do on this channel, too. The director is a guy named Josh Cooley. He co-wrote Inside Out, which I think won a screenplay for, Best Original Screenplay. And then he also was the director of Toy Story 4, which I think won Best Animated Feature at the Oscars.
Yeah. I believe it.
And he is a storyboard artist that's worked on a bunch of Pixar movies, including The Incredibles and other stuff too. So I think he's more than qualified to direct this movie. I'm assuming that you enjoyed it.
Oh, hell yeah.
You said to me that it's your favorite Transformers movie, except for the 86.
Yeah, it might be. I've only seen it the one time so far. I do want to go back and watch it again. It's a nice, crisp 90 minutes or so, just like the original 86 movie there. It's definitely a more family friendly movie. And it does kind of retread a lot of things and themes from various other comics of Transformers and the cartoon and other things. But I do feel it brings a unique take to it. And for me, this movie was just like the Megatron movie. I loved Megatron so much.
Yes.
I'm not quite willing to say it's my favorite iteration ever, but it's up there.
Yeah. Totally agree. By the time I left the theater, I was like, oh yeah, this is basically Megatron's origin story. Even though it's Optimus Prime's origin story and the War for Cybertron's origin story, it's really Megatron is the standout.
Megatron was the star of the show for me. He was the best thing about the movie for me, hands down.
Yeah. For me, I'm not sure. I really love Bumblebee a lot, the movie Bumblebee. I'm not sure if I like Bumblebee more than this. I guess maybe I need to see the end of this to tell you. But
you mean the movie, but you like the movie Bumblebee better than this potentially. You're not talking about the character.
Oh, I actually fucking hated Bumblebee in this.
Okay. I've got a few people thinking about I've seen a few people mention that they thought it was kind of annoying. I personally just really hate the radio silent Bumblebee. I hate that idea. I get it. It was okay for a gimmick in one movie. I guess you can even argue it worked well in Bumblebee and the first Transformers, but like it didn't need to continue for as long as it did.
Right. I totally agree with you on that. But like, okay, here's the thing. Key and Peele. I actually haven't watched that much of their show, but I love Jordan Peele because of his horror movies. I say Keegan Michael Key. There we go. I kind of feel like he is not that funny when he's in movies, and I didn't think Bumblebee was funny. I just thought Bumblebee was annoying.
But you know what? I think Bumblebee should be annoying, if that makes sense.
Explain it to me.
Bumblebee should not be the badass warrior that he appears to be in the Michael Bay movies. Bumblebee is the little sidekick, and
right.
I mean, like, think about if you're outside in the summer and a fucking bee's flying. It's annoying. It's just buzzing around. It's annoying. That's what it fucking should be. He is the little kid sidekick character sort of thing. Like he should be that little ball of energy that is kind of like a little annoying. I mean, I wouldn't say the original Bumblebee was annoying, but I see it as being more appropriate than him being this like ridiculous fighter that has insane amounts of plot armor.
Yeah,
like, he should be the little underdog.
Yeah, I agree. I think that maybe there's like a middle ground where he's kind of somewhere in between. But yeah, he's like this kind of kid in the G1 cartoon. And then like in the Bay movies, he's just like doing flips and ripping people's heads off and stuff. And he's like this like silent killer that makes like random quotes from like, streaming songs and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. He got on my nerves in this movie, and I was kind of missing just like the beeping noise Bumblebee from like Transformers Prime, but that's okay. What did you think of Chris Hemsworth as Orion Pax?
I thought he did fine. He was good. You know what? He was good. However, he has the hardest task out of anybody.
Yeah.
He's trying to live up to the Peter Cullen version of Optimus Prime, which is the one that most people are accustomed to. Yes, there are some other fantastic actors that have played Prime. Gary Chalk comes to mind, as well as David Kaye in Transformers Animated. Those are basically the three most distinct versions of Prime. It's the Peter Cullen version, the Gary Chalk version, and then the David Kaye version. I think every other iteration of Optimus Prime is either Peter Cullen's voice itself or it's someone trying to imitate Peter Cullen's voice. You can maybe even make that argument for Optimus Primal and Gary Chalk, but I'm willing to separate them, the two of them there. But we are so ingrained, like Peter Cullen's voice is so ingrained in our consciousness that anything else that tries to be slightly different doesn't sound right. But I think Chris Hemsworth does a really great job here. But to me, Brian Tyree as Megatron was the star. And I think also has been a lot of different actors for Megatron. They're always slightly different takes. They're all a little bit different. Frank Welker's the GOAT and all, but this was really good. And I think it's a lot easier for anyone to slide into any other Transformers voice other than like Optimus or Soundwave or maybe Grimlock, because some of the voices are just so iconic.
Oh man, that's really fucking astute point about Transformers voice acting. I agree with you on that one. And what I'll say to kind of go back to our Bumblebee point is that I like that Bumblebee and Optimus are different from the live action versions of Bumblebee and Optimus, that they're not these like fucking killers. Like unless Optimus like slaughters a bunch of people in the third act, he's pretty like good natured. He's sort of this reckless hero for the majority of the movie, but he's not like fucking killing people in cold blood. And it's sad because Peter Cullen is that Optimus too.
Yes. He does not go on any crazy Decepticon killing spree. I mean, he definitely fights off some drones, some Quintesson drones and stuff, but it's nothing to the level of the violence in the Michael Bay movies.
Yes. So
and the funny thing is that the funniest thing to me is one of the producers, Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, who's produced all the movies so far in some capacity, is really trying to say like, yeah, they're all connected. They're all connected together. I'm like, no, just fucking separate it, please. Let's not connect this to everything.
Yeah, I don't know how you could fucking connect this one to the other ones. Yeah,
I don't know.
So, before we jump into the other characters, though, let's talk about just one more thing behind the scenes. The guy that wrote it, his name's Eric Pearson, and he wrote Thor Ragnarok, Godzilla vs. Kong, Black Widow, Thunderbolts, that's not out yet, The Fantastic Four, The First Steps, and Blade, the new Blade that's supposed to, never come out.
Wow, right? That's quite a lot of faith put in him by Marvel.
Yeah, no kidding. So I think that it's good that he's on this project because obviously he's kind of like a comic book guy. He's not the one that came up with the story. The story was by Andrew Barr and Gabriel, could be Gabriel Ferrari, and it's their story. And then he basically wrote the screenplay for it. But I mean, like, the story is a story that we've seen a bunch of times already.
Yeah, it is definitely a remix. There's maybe some original points here and there, but if you're a huge fan and you read comics or played games or watched the original show, there's a lot of things you've seen here already before.
Yeah, I think maybe the biggest distinction is that, I mean, because even in the comics they have different classes, and Megatron is often like a minor. That's all that's in the IDW comics and stuff like that. And there's the idea of like maybe your function determines like your class in society. It's kind of based on your function. But in this,
that's a very IDW thing as well.
Right, exactly.
Function, and so
yeah, right. But in this, it's like the Cybertronians, the ones that are the minors, are born without transformation cogs, and so they just are like this like servant class to the Transformers that are the ones that have the transformation cogs. I think that's probably the most unique idea to this story. Do you think so?
Yes, definitely. Most of that has been a retread, like you said there, but the lack of the cog thing is definitely new and unique. I mean, transformation cogs have always been a part of things. One of my earliest memories of Transformers is the season 3 premiere where Metroplex can't transform because he doesn't have a transformation cog. So like the idea of that it goes back a while, but the idea that there's the entire lower class of beings that can't transform because they had their cogs removed is new. And also the fact that when they get them, they actually literally change size and shape a little bit, which I thought was interesting too.
Yeah, so we can kind of start to jump into spoilers at this point, and I'm kind of bouncing around with my notes as well. But basically, they fought. Okay, so Optimus Prime, Elita 1, Bumblebee or B-127, and D-16. And he's not even Optimus Prime; he's Orion Pax. They go to the surface of Cybertron because they have uncovered a map that could potentially lead into the Matrix of Leadership. They go to find the map, and they find the final battle place between the Quintessons and the 13 Primes. And all the 13 Primes are dead except for Alpha Trion.
Yes, he just kind of powered down, and they kind of gave him a little Energon cube, which was nice. So it really was like a little Energon goodie. I was ready for a mini bomb, but no.
Right. So they give him the Energon goodie, and he comes to life, and he gives them their cogs. And he's like, every Transformer every Cybertronian is born with a cog, and he gives them the cogs of the fallen Primes. Now, do you remember like which Primes he mentions when he gives them cogs?
Yes, it's Prima, Alchemist, Micronus, and Onyx.
Yeah, he does say Onyx. I remember him saying Onyx. Yeah, and I noticed he doesn't say Megatronus, which is really interesting because like D-16, Megatronus is like his star, his like favorite Prime, his idol. And we see, and it's really cool because Megatronus has that Decepticon sigil. He kind of looks like Tarn, and he's like, his body. I think his like severed head is on the ground, and Megatron's looking at it, or D-16 is looking at it.
Yes, he does find it. Yeah,
but they don't give him.
Okay. So there's a reason for that. What you didn't see is that Sentinel Prime took Megatronus's cog actually. So during the battle, we find out that Sentinel has Megatronus's cog, which then he rips Sentinel in half and takes it for himself, and he actually transforms into Megatron then. And then at some point there, Orion gets blasted by Megatron, and he like dies and falls into the planet, and then they give him the Matrix, and he turns into Optimus Prime.
Oh, okay. Does he still have that transformation cog from the other Prime?
I mean, he got like a big hole blasted in him, so I guess he might still have a cog, or it might be just be the. I mean, he has to have a cog because he transforms. So
yeah. So then,
but he gets basically what I'm saying is both D16 and Orion Pax get kind of two glow ups. They get that initial one with the cogs, and then they get another one later on towards the end of the third act to become Megatron and Optimus.
Okay, very cool. Well, so good.
So from there, they kind of have like a little battle and a ceasefire. Optimus opens up the Matrix, and all these cogs all the energon starts flowing again, and Cybertron, and everybody gets transformation cog. It's like Oprah, you get a cog and you get a cog, and then everybody starts kind of, transforming, and then you see a whole bunch of the famous characters. You see like Prowl and Sideswipe, Ironhide, and all that shit. It's great.
Oh man, I fucking wish I'd seen that. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of how the movie gets away with it, right? Because when you're watching this movie, the action is so frenetic that like you see characters in the background. You're like, wait a minute, is that Hound? Is that
it was.
Blur? That's what's that?
Basically, yes. If you saw someone in the background, it was definitely them. There are a bunch of like ones that sort of look like the same person, and they're so almost like clones. Somebody pointed out that there was like 2 exact copies of RC in like one shot.
Oh Jesus Christ! So okay, so one scene where you do see a lot of these characters. I mean, they're throughout the whole movie because Cybertron's just littered with Cybertronians, right? But there's this one part where Optimus and Megatron, who are minors, they can't participate in this race, this crazy race, the Icon 5000, because they can't transform.
Well, they can, but it just would be pointless because they can't transform.
Right. So they get jetpacks, or I think maybe even just one jetpack that they share.
No, it's two.
Okay, it's two. But they make it almost to the fucking finish line, but then they kind of stumble, and then a bot crashes through them, and I was like, "Is that Blur?"
I think it was. Yeah.
It would make sense.
Blur's name was definitely
on the list.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just.
This is the most we've ever spoken over each other in this entire history of this podcast. There are a lot of deep cut names in that racial list there, but yes, I do believe Blur was the eventual winner of that Icon race, Icon 5000. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of has to be Blur, right?
Yeah, of course.
That would win that, right. So, I like that. My favorite scene, and we're kind of jumping all over the place, but my favorite scene that I saw, I mean, maybe the ending had like 5 more scenes that I would have liked. But my favorite scene is when Optimus goes to recruit the miners at the end, and you see all these bots are like, okay, I think that's Ironhide, and that's this one, and he's like so much bigger than them,
Yeah.
He's huge, and he's just kind of sitting, and they're almost like little children around him. And I just like the way that shot was framed, like they're in these barracks.
It was really cool.
Yeah. So okay, so since we're jumping around though, I want to point out something I didn't like about the movie. I did not like that fucking Steve Buscemi was Starscream.
I didn't mind it. I do kind of feel like he doesn't have much screen time or much purpose. I don't know what will happen later on. I mean, I'm hoping there'll be a sequel. I don't know. I do know that Josh Cooley said that they have ideas for or maybe somebody said they have ideas for a trilogy. So I'm hoping that pans out. But casting a big name like Steve Buscemi, I kind of worry about if he'll want to be involved in it more, because he didn't have to do that much, I guess, in this. But I didn't think it was bad or anything like that. Starscream is another one of those iconic voices, but unfortunately, we don't have that actor with us anymore. Chris Latta died a long time ago. But everyone, his voice is really another example of everyone just kind of copying the original. It's rarely something different.
In Prime, though, it's something different.
Yeah, that's probably one of the few times it's not is Prime. He's a little more. That's Steve Bloom doing it too.
Right, and he sounds like fucking Spike Spiegel when he's talking.
He does sound like Spike Spiegel. Yeah, like a more effeminate Spike Spiegel.
Right. Okay, but here's the thing. I got to ask you, because you saw the end. So Megatron fights Starscream at one point, and he's like choking Starscream, and Starscream's voice has this sort of like high-pitched, whiny sound to it with Steve Buscemi's voice. Does he have that at the end?
I
does he not talk again?
Saying much more after that, to be perfectly honest. I didn't even notice a difference. Was there a difference in the sound of his voice?
Yeah. What happens is Megatron chokes him, and then he's got this like high-pitched kind of noise to his voice. And then because I did see when Sentinel Prime captures them, and he's like kind of interrogating them, and then he says something like, "Oh, we got Starscream," and then Starscream has that voice, and then like Sentinel Prime makes fun of him.
I did not really pick up on that even. So I don't know if I can properly answer. I don't remember him really saying anything else beyond that. So I guess that's all I have to say.
Well, yeah, it's just, I notice it because like Starscream's my favorite one, right? So it's like I kind of pay very close attention to him. So what's interesting, and okay, here's actually another thing I didn't like too. I didn't like that like Shockwave was the comic relief, where like Elita 1's beating him up, and he acts kind of like he's intimidated by Elita 1. I didn't like that.
Yeah, it was a little weird to have Shockwave be that person there, but I mean, he is one of the figureheads of the army of the Decepticons, and it sort of makes sense to have the three of them be those leaders in the High Guard. I didn't mind that at all. You're allowed to. I think they're allowed to have different interpretations. I'm sure they could very easily have him be some evil mad scientist again, and even be a main villain perhaps, but in a future movie. But I feel like they're really going to focus on the Optimus and Prime, battle. What was I going to say? I lost it. Oh, one of the things that I didn't like. We're going here with the minors about the Cogs here is that they established this timeline that 50 cycles ago, which many people have pointed out in most iterations of Transformers, cycles are minutes.
What?
In most, yeah. So here, clearly, it's not.
Yeah. But just an hour ago, this happened with the Primes.
Yeah. So it's like, 50 minutes ago, the Primes were lost.
And I've looked for them many times in the last 50 minutes. Yeah.
We're turning Sentinel Prime to Trump now.
Oh my God.
So the idea is that there was this battle between the Primes and the Quintessons. Quintessons triumphed, and Sentinel's been looking for the Matrix for 50 cycles, which is supposed to be a long amount of time. Then I assume that D16 and Orion Pax were created or born after that battle. Yeah, because they don't have cogs. But I guess you can just make the argument that when these Transformers were given life, that Sentinel just had their cogs removed or something like that to keep them under. But it almost seems weird as to why. Well, it just seems odd that there are characters that exist that are full-fledged Transformers that have no issues with what are going on, and there are these characters that like the fact that no one questioned this. There are characters that existed other than the High Guard that are still around. They're still Transformers. They must have been around at some point. They have cogs, and there's half these characters that don't. And I just feel like it's like something that should have been explained better as to why they didn't have them, and how they got away with them not having them. Because at the end of the movie, Prime opens the Matrix, and all this energon flows out, and it looks like the golden age of Cybertron. And then all these cogs come flying out of the energon. It looks weird, almost like ghost-like, which is kind of strange. Instead of something solid and material, and then everybody turns into their Transformer selves. So I wish they would have elaborated more on that, or give us a better explanation why or how that happened, rather than just saying that it happened and having us just accept it.
Yeah, from what I remember, they say the line of like, before we came online, they removed our cogs, right? So it's like their bodies are there, their protoforms or whatever version it is in this universe. And then like they took their cogs out, which is this is like crazy metaphor too. It's almost like a metaphor for like, okay, I'm gonna get a little dark and stuff here for a second, but like there's a thing where like people might be like sexually mutilated when they're children, like in some like weird countries and stuff. They do things to like little girls sometimes, and it's got that dark connotation to it of like we're essentially cutting off a part of them before they are born, right? And that's how they said, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I guess you could say it's used to make them easier to control and keep down, but it's like at the same time, wouldn't they be more effective workers to mining this energy on as larger transformers?
Right. Well, so I was going to ask you this question of what did you think of the Quintessons? You can tell me after I make this point, which is that maybe since Sentinel Prime made this pact with the Quintessons, maybe there is a whole class of Transformers or Cybertronians that are aware of this pact, because there's definitely people that are working with Sentinel Prime, like Arachnid and Darkwing and stuff, that are they know what's going on, but maybe there's like a big ruling class that know. And then, like the majority of Cybertron are just minors that can't transform. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, no, because every person in that race was a Transformer. There was a lot of people in that race at the very least. I mean, there were a lot of named characters too. I saw Cliffjumper in there, and oh man, there's a whole bunch of names there. Some G2 names and shit too. I can't remember anything off the top of my head right now. But there was a Dr. Ratchet announcement on there on a speaker somewhere. I imagine he's a full-fledged Transformer. It's just the timeline seems suspect to me, and how no one else has questioned this entire time.
Well, you know what it is? It's fucking Cliffjumper and Ratchet are fucking race traders. They're working with the Quintessons, just like Sentinel Prime. Yeah. You like them? You think they're good?
Cliffjumper.
I know. And Cliffjumper gets killed like every fucking movie.
No, save Cliffjumper.
Yeah. No, but what's interesting about this whole thing is it's a dark concept of like sort of like maiming them or making them not be able to transform before they are brought online, before they're born. That's a dark concept, but it's something for us adults to think about. It's kind of in our back of our minds to think about like this interesting concept. But I felt like what was interesting about this movie is that it gets pretty brutal and dark when D16 starts to become Megatron.
Yes. And
because
this was my favorite arc in the movie here. We see the whole time that he very much looks up to Megatron as Prime. He looks up to the Primes in general, and and you slowly, as they kind of uncover everything, he becomes more and more jaded towards these towards Sentinel and what happened to them, and he eventually did. So you didn't get to the point where his eyes turned red, then, did you?
No.
Oh yeah, it was a great little scene where he ultimately has the choice to Prime goes to stop him from killing Sentinel, and that's when he gets blown up, and then he rips Sentinel in half, and that's the point where his eyes turn red. He's like, no, like I'm not letting him get away with this. Like it was just such a great arc for the character, and to see that these two characters that went through the exact same thing with slightly different perspectives and how they kind of came to completely different outcomes on opposing sides. It was just really well done, I think, and the performances were really great, and I just want more. I want more of everything that I like.
Right. Well, it's the Megatron arc, just to go along with what you're saying, it's so good because he's so like naive and devoted to the cause, and he's like a fanboy of Sentinel Prime. He's a fanboy of Megatronus Prime. He has like a Megatronus sticker at one point that Orion has found for him. He's like so devoted to the cause, and he's always kind of shutting down Prime or Orion Pax, who is like this kind of rebellious guy. Then he gets this cog after he finds out the truth, and he finds out that Sentinel Prime killed his fucking idol. And his whole world collapses. Yeah. And what's interesting is that he's got that anger in him. We start to see him push back against Orion Pax. But then when he finally meets Starscream, it's really interesting that like Starscream is the one that kind of brings him out even further. because like Starscream kind of challenges him. He's like, oh, we're not going to work with you guys. What makes you think we would listen to you or whatever? We believe that the strongest should lead. And then like Megatron just like fucking grabs him, like knocks him down, just beats him up like Megatron does. And then the greatest part was that his fucking cannon comes out when he's like getting mad at Starscream.
Yes.
Love that fucking part. Yeah. So it's like Starscream kind of brings it out of him. But it's just interesting because it was like really brutal the way that he treated Starscream, and then he like gets the gun, and his whole affect and his whole demeanor changes by that point. He's like, oh, that's the Megatron that I know.
Yeah, and he's not even fully there yet. Like he progresses more to the Megatron we know by the end of the movie there. And the after credit scene was basically him riling up the Decepticons and everybody getting the brand and everything like that. And funnily enough, what this kind of made me angry is that he says that Decepticons rise up, like that line from one of the trailers. Like that's the fucking post credit scene. Like why would you put that in the goddamn movie in the trailer?
Yeah. Well, so do they show that scene? Because I know in the trailer they also show like Optimus and he's got his face plate and he like lands. Do they show that in the movie? Okay.
Yeah, that's in the actual movie after Optimus comes back as Prime when he gets the Matrix. He's granted the Matrix. Yeah. So
nice. Yeah, it was fun. It was good, and I really enjoyed it before I had to leave. We got like fucking Lawrence Fishburne as Alpha Trion too.
Oh shit! Yeah, he was great too. It's just funny how his role as Morpheus influenced so many of his later roles as this like older mentor figure.
Yeah. It's so like he conveys that, and he kind of looks like a samurai too, and so he kind of seems like this wise old samurai talking to Orion Pax and the crew. And then freaking John.
Did you see what happened to him, or did you have to leave?
Yeah, Air Acted like stabs him a bunch of times, and then Sentinel Prime stabs him too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then I couldn't pin Sentinel Prime's voice. I was like, I know that voice. This is a guy that usually plays assholes, and of course it was John Hamm. So okay.
Yeah. I thought you did a great job here. There's been a lot of different iterations of Sentinel Prime. This one kind of did feel a bit like the animated Sentinel Prime in a way, or partially, because he's kind of like that cocky douchebag sort of version of him, but he's a little more powerful here, I suppose.
Yeah, his design was really cool too. I liked his wings.
Yeah, I definitely want that figure. I so far the only one that's out. I didn't buy any of the mainline figure. I got the Studio Series version. And the only one that's out is Optimus, so I have that. But I'm going to buy all of them.
Oh, I think, isn't the Bumblebee one out too?
So the mainline versions are out. So that's the ones that have like the Transformers 1 packaging. But I buy the Studio Series ones. I think the black packaging, and usually you'll see like the Bayverse movie ones in there, and the 86 movie figures and like that in those packages. So they're a little more collector aimed, I guess.
Oh, okay. Yes, you can. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that like kids that see this, and adults like us too, will want to get some of the figures. You just turned me on to the whole fucking Bloxy. What are those called? Those little toys?
Blockies. Oh my god, I'm so upset. Where is it? Where did I put them? Oh, wait, here's Ultra Magnus. Yeah, I fucking love these things.
Yeah,
it's very so foldable and everything like that. And they're transforming like that, but they're just fun to build.
I love how you introduced me to this thing that would be the perfect birthday gift, and it's 2 days before my birthday, and it's like I can't tell my wife or anybody to buy any for me. But I went on that website and I was like, oh, look at that! I'll even get some of those fucking Bayverse ones. I don't care; they even look cool too.
Those are bigger though. I like the little ones that come in the blind boxes. Those are more fun to me. But
yeah. So was there anything else you wanted to say about Transformers 1 though?
Yeah, well, just you have the ticker down there. What's next in the franchise? I do hope we get more. I would like to see more of this story. I think there's more to tell here. I want to learn more about the Quintessons. I do always enjoy seeing the kind of origins between Optimus and Megatron. I do feel like there's some potential to do a trilogy. Have them have to join together to fight maybe the Quintessons or something like that, before they ultimately have the war we're all familiar with by the end. So yeah, just bring on more. Go see it. I'm going to go see it again.
Yeah, I maybe should go see it again so I can see the end. I was gonna say that like probably the third installment would be like a better telling of that War for Cybertron show.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like the next one they have to address the Quintessons.
Yeah.
And from there, we can just get into like flat out, maybe even the time jump where the planet's dying, they need to leave, and it's just Autobots and Decepticons fighting at that point.
Yeah, I'm down for that, man. And I enjoyed this. Maybe at some point we could like rank all the Transformers movies. I don't know when we're gonna have a chance to review another Transformers thing, but this would rank pretty high for me too. I think it's maybe tied with Bumblebee, maybe even passing Bumblebee. I got to see the end of it first.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, it's been a pleasure. If you guys enjoyed listening to me and Brian talk about Transformers, you can subscribe to our channel. We also always talk about comic books. And you know what? We will be back next week.